everyone. Welcome to Futurist 2020. Today with my panel, we will be discussing the future of the web. I am very excited to be here. This is a topic that is of high interest to me as we keep evolving in the space. So today I am joined by Jenna, Luke, and Ado. I'd like you all to kind of give a little intro for yourselves to the audience. Jenna, we'll start with you. Oh, you may be on mute.
There we go. That's probably a little bit better. First of all, thanks to the Futurist team. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be back here at Futurist. I know this is a little different, but as Justina said, I'm Jenna Pilgrim. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Streambed. You just heard from my co-founder, Michael Casey, who is the chairman at Streambed. Michael and I founded the company in June of 2018. So it's been quite a long time. Things were very different then. But I came before that from the Blockchain Research Institute, working as the Director of Business Development with Don and Alex Tapscott. And from there for the last year and a half, we've been working on Streambed. Streambed is a publishing tool and analytics engine that helps correlate social media platforms together to help attest to the fact that things happened online, and then help move forward into a more transparent and reputation-based form of social media.
Okay. Ado, do you want to give us an intro as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm Ado, co-founder, CEO of Source. Source is what we call an interoperable data management layer for the decentralized web. Easiest way to kind of think of Source is that we are to data storage what Cosmos and Polkadot are to blockchain interoperability. So we interoperate the data that applications store across different storage networks.
Thank you. And Luke?
Hi, yeah, I'm Luke Malks. I'm a Director of Business Development at Brave Software and the Basic Attention Token. I started at Brave in early 2016, and prior to that, I was the Director of Ad Products in advertising for a company called OAO. Worked with all the major ad stacks from Google and all the others, and and then prior to that was in publishing.
Great. Well, thank you for the introductions. We'll start, I think, with the first topic, which is basically currently how your organizations are sort of taking the web browsing experience to another level. So I'll start with you, Luke, because
yeah, that seems appropriate. So Brave's a privacy-focused browser, and we basically kind of start from the position of, in order to shape a better, more private web for everybody, you kind of have to stop the damage of third-party data collection and things that are happening without users being aware of it. So we start by having kind of the strongest privacy protection for our users for any major web browser, and then we build in business models that work with our token, the Basic Attention Token, that can account for attention and then include users in the value proposition and earn a reward for their attention. So it's kind of about having the users kind of wake up to the fact that their attention has value and rewarding that value with our ecosystem.
And what about you, Jenna? Oh, you're on mute again. It's okay, it just makes things better.
I know. You'd think with this much Zoom that I would have got used to it by now.
No, it's okay.
So that's okay. It's okay. So we understand that the average person has about 90 different accounts across all the different places online that they interact with. And we believe that if you're able to correlate those things together, then you're able to have a more whole view of what your online footprint is. And that isn't necessarily just the content that you create. We believe that contributions, such as like I'm contributing to this conference, or I'm contributing to magnifying content online that I really like from an artist that I really like. And all of those different activities that I do online should be able to be correlated together so that I can create what basically looks like a reputation layer for any web browser. We're agnostic to which social media tools you use or which browser you use or whatever. We believe that you should be able to log into all of these different platforms and then use that to better inform. If it could be advertisers, but it could be just brands you really like, you should be able to leverage that to better plan your life.
So when I hear that and I look at Brave and I think about like how these intersect, right? And I look at like, okay, the background of, okay, so from my understanding, you know, like I can choose then what information I give or not give. And let's say I am using a certain platform on like the Brave browser, right? And then, so how do we account for anonymity with your platform, Jenna, for example?
So we don't store any of the credentials of people who log into their social media platforms through ours. We publish all of that information to information, we encrypt it, and then we publish it to a proof of work metadata chain. It's called Flow, FLO. It's originally a fork of Bitcoin from 2013. And then we pull down what we need out. And then we decrypt, pull down what we need from that to be able to show specific users what information they need or what information they are privy to on our dashboard. So we're kind of like a Hootsuite, where Hootsuite allows you to log into all of these different social media platforms, then it publishes to them on your behalf. We take that about 1 to 5 steps further, and then use that to basically protect you in all of these different realms.
And so, Ado, from my understanding, like you're kind of like the secret sauce layer. Like that's how I see it. Is that right? Like, did I get that? Because I feel like, let's just make it super understandable. And so interoperability for me is sort of, how do I allow things to talk to each other?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. I mean, when we looked at like all the nascent projects in storage of decentralized storage data, we realized that a lot of them were kind of focused on decentralization of the infrastructure, but how the data is managed on that decentralized infrastructure was lacking. They tended to use a lot of centralized standards, and to us, we felt that we needed to bring data management up to the level of decentralized technologies and allow this interoperability to happen. And so we create, that through, kind of flipping the traditional thinking of how data, how applications are built today, where we create, where each app designs their app logic behind the scene. We actually create a global kind of, place where all the developers can create the schemas and how the data is managed, and the users get the benefit of that, because that's how we get the interoperabilities through the schema consensus engines that we have and all these different things. So it's not each individual developer building their own backends how they see it functioning for their applications. Is all the developers coming together building backends together that all the applications can access to, and the keys to the data on our backend are only in the hands of the creators of the data. So that they effectively can grant permission or hire an application to do certain work or with their data, and so that's how kind of Source works.
Mm-hmm. So I think what I really liked from the conference earlier was like handing back the power to the users, which blockchain's a lot about that. But I guess I ask all of you again, just to kind of tie that in, how why is it important in your perspective to empower the users to have their data ownership, their data sharing, or for example be even paid for their time and the data that they provide?
I think we have to put a value on people's data, and that value is probably transactional. We have to put a value on somebody's activities. We have to and it doesn't have to be necessarily individual values. It can be, a value on the reputation of a person. They need to have some sort of quantification to basically be told how much they are worth to the market that would like to purchase their data. If you get into like compensating people for, there's several creator apps right now that are existing on the basis that they believe creators or consumers will pay creators to watch content. But if I can watch a piece of content for free, I'm not going to pay a creator to continue to continue making it, unless I'm in that sort of top group of like top fans of an influencer. That's the only like demographic of people that will actually pay for content itself. So I think being able to really define what data is worth, and I think there's an important distinction to be made between like what kind of data it is. We usually default to like, okay, protect me, use it like, but that's a question of what is me? Am I my personal identifying information, or am I all the activities of the things that I do online? And I think something that Brave actually does really well is that they reward users for seeing ads that are relevant to them. And I think that model, like to toot Luke's horn a little bit, that model is really great. It's a way that is working for users. So, and
I think too, it's also about like not just about the data itself, but how the data is collected, right? Like I think if like at Brave, we have no problem with data. We're not anti-data at all. I think it's all about like how is that data transmitted? Was that data voluntarily given from the user to the other party, or is this something that's happening in the background because data is incredibly valuable and it's something that the internet relies on, right? Like so. That's this opt-in versus opt-out kind of dynamic where the internet as we kind of know it in most web browsers right now your privacy is kind of an opt-out thing. If you know enough to care about your privacy, you have to opt out of getting tracked, and then you have to remember to go back and opt out again if you clear your cookies or do other stuff that people normally do all the time. It's not really like compatible with privacy protection. So how that data is collected is really important, but that's one of the encouraging things like that's coming out of this macro movement towards privacy is that people are kind of like the idea of consent-based data and changing that dynamic a bit, which is so critical, is kind of coming to the surface now. So that is one positive thing, but it's all about like giving users power. Is the browser really the user agent, or is the person the product, right? And I think if you're the thing I like about the blockchain movement is a lot of it goes back to the fundamentals of the web, where it's like you're in control. The browser's your agent to the web. You can do what you want on the client, and I mean, like it's kind of a reawakening of that.
Well, but I think that the swath of people who care about privacy right now, they may care about it, but they're not going to compromise their activities in order to save that privacy. So even something as simple as switching to a different browser or changing to there are several different social media platforms like Voice or even Steemit or others that if my friends aren't there, I'm not going to go there. There aren't like there as a consumer, it's really difficult that switching thing is something that blockchain applications are going to continue to face, because just the save your data, be paid for your data, that it's a hard story to tell for the average consumer because they believe that the battle is lost.
And I agree with you on that, but I have to also say there's I think people would also care about speed. I know Brave as a browser is like so much faster, and so like I was also trying to like do my own query on like why people would switch over. And for some people, even though they may not care about their privacy, they may not care about their privacy today. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I really have to say, a lot of people care about speed. And if I don't have to load these ads and I'm doing it that much faster, I think Brave, from what I heard last, and you can correct me, Luke, if I'm wrong, but it's like 14 million users or something like that. So
yeah, we're at 20 million monthly active users.
My stats are old. My data's old. Sorry.
We have like
fast things change.
Yeah, no, well, I think, the point around speed's a very valid one. I mean, like, privacy is kind of a trick. Data and privacy are kind of tricky concepts for mainstreamers. And I think, the challenge with, the byproduct of having good privacy for Brave is that you have, speed and data savings. But, we're kind of going against the grain a bit because, a lot of the mainstream services are basically selling convenience at the cost of privacy or at, and so not only does it have to be private and not only does the business model have to work, you also have to deliver a level of convenience and added value that can compete against, a touchless, payment conditions and that everybody's kind of becoming conditioned with COVID and all this.
Yeah, and so like, and just to add to that, like the way that I see it, and like what's coming to me is like microtransactions. You know, like more people in this world right now have cell phones, they have access to clean water, and we're dealing with COVID. Like the way that I see it is like, yes, okay, Jenna, I agree. We are still in the trenches fighting the fight. But you know, like I think like you have to, like when we look at the developing world and the amount of people who live there, and we look at like their usage and like what they could be earning, for someone in a developed world, this is like cents. But like if you're living somewhere else and this, you're allowed to sell your data and you're making money from it, like that could be a life-changing thing. So I feel like, you know, I don't know all the stats yet because they're not there yet, but like I'm optimistic. You know, I'm optimistic in terms of where we're going with the space. Call me a you know, optimistic, but I really also like what you said, Ado, in terms of what your company does. Like, what if at one point I have a lot of great data, I host an event, and you want to know about like who came? I get to decide with a smart contract if I sell it to you or not. And I got to be crazy not to be doing that, you know? Well, I mean,
Yeah, and for us, it's not just about selling data, it's about also kind of a bottom-up approach to voting with your data as far as like what are the best apps to use. Like you can think of Facebook today, it has this control over people's social media. That's just because they built moats around it, around their platform that prevents others from create applications that can kind of compete with Facebook. And for us, if you give the power of the data to each individual that's putting that data on Facebook, and they don't like what Facebook is doing anymore, and allowing them to just decouple from Facebook and move that data to another social media platform, that's where kind of like more of the power to the people is kind of transferred. So it's not just about monetizing it; it's also
absolutely.
allowing them to vote. Uh,
No,
you
no,
know,
no. And like I agree. And I only bring that up because, you know, like, you know, we're looking at it, part of what the incentives are for people to switch over. But you're absolutely right. Like I totally wholeheartedly agree. You know, I think we're living in an ever-changing world, and you know, this, how do we get there? The questions I ask is, how do we get there faster when we have better products? How do we get them out to the hands of more people? So I guess on that note, how do you see that happening yourselves? Maybe
I
that's
think
something to thought of.
a shift to a blockchain based world needs to be led with a really cutting edge UI UX, because the background of you might be doing all kinds of really cool things in the background with somebody's data, or you may be enabling them to do all kinds of things, or maybe the most secure platform that there is. But if it's not accessible to the average person, then it's not going to gain the kind of usership that is needed to potentially overthrow these social media walled gardens that we have. And I think being led with that cutting edge experience that makes it really easy for somebody to onboard, but doesn't ask them right away to change all kinds of things about what they do. They don't have to change a big part of their customer workflow. You can just sort of come in a little bit at a time to figure out how to sort of ease in that transition. There's lots of blockchain evangelists who say, well, everyone should just move from here to here. And I'm like, well, Google Chrome still remembers what all my passwords are. So probably that's a no from me, sir. I will not be doing that. And so, like, we can nod all day about how great it will be when we all have this beautiful decentralized future, but the transition is not going to be a smooth one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I fully agree with that. Like for us, I mean, our target audience are developers, and so it's the first kind of layer of our technology is targeted to decentralized community, but ultimate goal is to get it that a cloud developer today building a cloud application can build on source as easily as they can on AWS, and make it as seamless, because it's developers that will be experimenting with the building different kinds of applications that ultimately, if we make it easier for them, they don't have to focus on the hard tech, and they can just focus on the interaction with their end users and how that app functions. Then makes it easier for the average person to transition onto the decentralized web. And getting the benefits of the decentralized web should not be a pain. It should be something that's just a bonus, for you using it. It's just a given, and not something that you have to jump through hoops to get to, kind of thing. So
yeah, just to echo that, I think anything consumer facing, especially usability is key. And if what you're building isn't usable, you might as well not build it, because nobody's going to use it. I mean, like I said earlier, you're dealing with like a one-touch payment world, and having these kind of immutable transactions that you don't measure twice on, and oops, I sent it to the wrong address. Like that is going to be very difficult to sell to anyone I know that's not into tech things. Like
even something as simple as like, hey, wait, come back in 10 minutes when we wait for some confirmation. People are like, what?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think that you guys touched on a very good point, which is like the user usability. But I think the other thing is, how do we all work together? Because it seems to me like you're all sort of working on the the new web, but just different parts of it. So I think like I'd like to hear your perspective on going like how do you work with stakeholders, and like how does that impact your work? And maybe I'll
so
start
we're pretty we're pretty early stage still, so we're defining. We have one side of our app built, but we're working on the marketplace side right now, and we have had a lot of collaboration with other companies. There are lots of people in our corner who have built this sort of app before, not quite like this, but this sort of app before. And I think looking at how we can all complement each other is really important. So for example, we built on the Open Index protocol, and the Open Index protocol also services the Medici Land Governance Project, and they service a Caltech electron microscopy data and DDX, which is like a database of people. And so we've been, we collaborate with them. They're working on a security implementation. So I think being involved all the way up to the protocol layer, us as apps can find a way to be involved in the whole stack, so that we can sort of have our say as to defend our own users, pretty much. And then from a protocol partnership, we store all of our videos on SIA, for example. And so in that case, we're using a blockchain for the metadata, and then we're storing the information on another blockchain-based decentralized storage platform. And so being able to sort of eat your own dog food as much as you can is what we're trying to do.
Just a heads up, sorry to interrupt you guys, but we are getting to the end. Just to note of time, I'll let you go ahead, but just to let you know, we're going to end this with the last question, which is your futurist prediction, what the future will look like by 2021. So go ahead. Look,
I'll go next. I mean, I'll quickly say that, like, with regards to stakeholders, we're working with major protocols, so Polkadot, Cosmos, and also the decentralized storage providers like Filecoin, even Dfinity when it comes to compute and decentralized storage. And what the world looks like in 2021, I hope it's out of the virus kind of pandemic, and that we get back to normal lives. That's really like what I'm hope for now. And yeah.
Yeah, and from our perspective, it's been interesting because not only have we been working with blockchain projects, which is a really great experience because there's a lot more collaboration than competition, and a lot more of all of us being kind of in it together. The other interesting thing is we've been working with a lot of traditional businesses that maybe have never dealt with crypto before, and so both of those things kind of bring a challenge. But if we can bring and add value to both and get them kind of talking to each other, that's one of the ways that we see potentially scaling this in a major way. And as far as like hopefully next year, I hope we can travel and meet with people. I don't know, the bar's pretty low, but yeah.
I think for 2021, I think we're going to see a lot of killer consumer apps. There aren't that many consumer apps in blockchain that are things other than buying and selling crypto, getting crypto into the hands of people, getting tokens into the hands of people. I think in 2021, we're going to see a lot more mainstream applications of crypto that are seeping into every facet of society.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. And I myself look forward to the future and seeing a lot more in the space. But I'm excited about gaming. I'm not a gamer, but I feel like we are inside and people are going to be gaming. So let's gamify things. And I'm really looking forward to also NFTs in this space and seeing like people using and seeing digital assets, because, you know, we've had a year sort of away from the physical world. But I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. I'd like to thank the organizers of the Futurist Conference for making this amazing event online. So I wish you all the best. It was a pleasure to speak to you today, and I hope to meet you in person very soon.
Likewise.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.